That's better? All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing today? I love the energy. Welcome to the 2022 Cooking for the Holidays stage. I want to start by giving a hearty thank you to our sponsors, Renewal, Remodel, and Additions, who provided the kitchen that you see before you, and Bates Technical College, who you will see all around. They're going to get all the great close-up shots that you will be able to see over here on this screen, so keep an eye out for that. And without all that said, let's give a warm welcome to Chef Blake Lord-Wittig.
Hello,
Hi,
guys.
Blake. How you doing, Chef?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm fabulous. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
So today I'm going to make Coquito cream puffs.
Love it.
Coquito is Puerto Rican eggnog. Mainly, the main difference is that it has coconut in it as well. So I'm doing a little rendition on that in a cream puff form. So I can get started here. The first thing I'm going to do is make my pâte à choux dough. Pâte à choux is essentially kind of like a master dough from France, but also it actually is the base for churros as well. Like it's kind of like every cuisine has a form of pâte à choux, which is kind of crazy. Like even in Italy, it's called zippoles. So it's just very, very interesting.
Love that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get started. It's kind of the weirdest dough you could possibly do, honestly. I don't know why But it's like you do it on a pot, you cook it before, temper in eggs. So we'll go through the process right here. So I got 240 grams of water. I'm going to throw it into my pot right here.
And are you going to have that pot there on heat, medium heat, high heat?
High heat.
Okay.
Sorry. And then I'm going to add 120 grams of butter. I always do everything for this recipe in grams because pastry is kind of finicky. It likes, you have to do it exactly the same way so it rises, it stays risen, it doesn't fall. I'm going to add 33 grams of sugar. And that's that for right now. What I need that to do is come to a boil.
All right.
All right, so while that's coming to a boil, I'm going to start making my pastry cream. And the pastry cream is going to go in the filling of these cream puffs. So I have 2 cups of milk.
And when it comes to cream puffs, that's an interesting dessert choice, I think. I don't think I've ever made a cream puff in my life. Is there a reason why you were drawn to it today?
Honestly, I love making pastry. I use that base and alone. I've used to make salmon dumplings, where I make a mousseline, fold it into it like a brandade, and then I can make a little, and I poach them. And so it's just very versatile. I make versions of it all the time. And I just like how, I don't know, I just feel very confident in them. So it's kind of one of those like crutches almost.
I love
Your
we all have a
go-tos.
culinary crush.
Yeah, culinary crutch. Yeah.
Oh, we have a question in the front here, Chef. I'm going to come
Yeah,
up.
of course.
All right. Question?
The milk, 1%, 2%.
I use whole milk.
Whole milk.
Yeah, for all cooking purposes, I always just use whole milk. You probably could try to sub in like soy milk or certain things like that if you wanted to do a dairy-free. I haven't personally done it, but I'm pretty sure you could. It would work out pretty well. All right, so while my milk's heating up, I'm going to get my pastry cream started here. I need to put 4 egg yolks into my pot, half a cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and this is called mise en place. It's like the easiest way to cook very fast and efficiently and clean. Get all your ingredients out and measured how you need before you even start trying to do anything, and then you can work more efficiently, and it really just helps everything.
So, Chef, what does mise en place mean?
It means everything in place. It's one of those things to live by. All right, so that just needs to come to a boil. And same here, this just needs to come to a boil. And right now I have this. It's just the eggs, yolks mixed with the sugar and the cornstarch, and it kind of turns into this thick yellow paste. Just got to make sure there's no raw cornstarch anymore. Just kind of make sure it's all mixed together. All right.
So, Chef, can you tell us a little bit about your culinary background and where we can find you?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Tacoma area, worked in New York City for 6 years. From there, I opened a restaurant in the Tacoma area. I closed in 2019. Currently, I am the executive chef of the tech company Indeed. And I do all their catering at their headquarters in Seattle. But I also, on the side, I also do my own catering as well, and do private events, weddings as well.
I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
We have some folks in the back. Their son works at Indeed as well.
Oh, yeah?
We got some coworker parents. It's a small world.
Yeah, very small world. All right.
So, patient. What do you do when you're in the kitchen? You do a little dance, do a little song, have a little beverage?
Yeah, play. I mean, what I do to my cooks, I play tricks on them all the time. That's the main goal. I always try to like recently we made 250 caramel apples for all the people at Indeed, and I tricked one of our cooks. We dipped it in a whole onion in caramel also, and he took a bite of it. So, do things like that. Gotta keep it fresh.
That's just mean,
It looked
Chef.
exactly like it, honestly. It's not mean. Good fun. All right, so this is getting hot, a little steamy here. And so is this at the exact same time. That's how it usually works. So I'm going to start with this one. Now that this is a boil, I'm going to add 175 grams of flour to my mixture. And from here, I'm just going to stir it. It's going to come into this thick, thick dough. It's going to get really, really sticky. And what I'm doing here now, after I get it together, I just need it to dry. So you got to kind of have to work fast here.
Oh, it comes together real fast.
Yeah. It kind of makes this nice, thick, smooth dough. Okay. So at this point, when it's at this point right here, I could either do it on the stovetop. I could fold in the eggs one by one and do that. It always is a big mess, and it takes forever, and my arm will hurt after the end of it. So what I'm going to do is use my mixer over here, my food processor.
And as with a couple other demos this weekend, the plug-in is just a little off stage. So pay no mind. We make things work.
I've probably had worse setups than this before cooking, so. All right. So now that it's in there, we're going to get it going here. And all I'm trying to do is add the egg. I got to do it one by one.
And how many eggs do you have there?
This is 5 eggs.
5 eggs. And why would you only do them one by one?
I need to make sure the dough is going to take all the eggs. I just need to do it slowly till I get to a point. All right. Rock and roll. Okay, so our dough is together. It's nice and sticky. All the eggs there's no mix of eggs. It all looks cohesive.
But if you were entertaining and you wanted to tell your family that you did that one by one, by hand, and your arm is aching, you're welcome to it.
Yeah. No one will know the difference.
No one will know.
No. All right. So the dough here, it's kind of a sticky dough here. All right, so now I just need to put it into my piping bag, which I equipped a kind of like a thicker, smooth tip. And that's a good sign, like I was saying, it's sticky, like that's kind of where you want it.
Sticks to the spoon a little bit.
Yeah, it sticks to the spoon. It's not runny by any means. Like, it's dense. Also, a fun fact about pâte à choux, it could actually be used in a lot of other savory things as well. Parisian gnocchi is also made with this exact same dough. So if I was going to switch this to Parisian gnocchi, exactly what I just made here, I would fold in herbs, garlic, cheese, bring water to a boil, pipe it into the water, and just cut it with scissors as it boils. And once it comes to a boil and they all start floating, skim them out, and that's it. The dish is already ready.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, you can plenty of good uses for this.
All sorts
dough.
of things.
Yeah.
We have another question here, Chef.
Yes.
If the dough came out just a little bit too runny, would you be adding more flour or more butter?
No, I would probably have to remake it at that point. So it's so finicky like that. So if it came out too thin, I would just recommend remaking it, just because the fact is that if it's runny, it's going to deflate at the end, and we won't have like the texture we're kind of going for. Okay.
It's when you mourn the loss a little bit.
All right, so I got a little pan here. So the technique to do this here is squirt down, 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 like, and then you like make little layers, and then pull it away cleanly. It's like you're like jabbing at it.
It's a nice shot of that on the screen there. So when it comes to technique for something like this, is this something that you learned in culinary school, self-taught?
A mix. I did go to culinary school in New York City. You know what? I pretty much hated baking and desserts that whole time. So then eventually I found actually a love for it. And I do all the desserts, everything. I'm pretty well versed in it. I literally made a giant race podium layered cake that was like 18 layers high or something like that. So yeah, so we do a little bit of everything, and I like pastry now, so I definitely learned on my own on this technique per se. Also, if you were wanting to make eclairs, this is also the eclair dough. So if you want to do that, you just pipe it down in one straight line, and you bake it, do the same process, and you stuff it with pastry cream. Dip it in chocolate at the end. But yeah, so it's just like I said, it's very versatile, so kind of is a good one to have in your repertoire.
I love it. Put it in the vault.
Okay. So we're going to go in the oven. If you have a convection oven as a fan, I would do it at 350. And I do that for about 20 to 30 minutes. And then after that time I just shut the oven off and let it sit in there and dry out. And that helps it stay crispy. It helps it stay its structure. But if you're doing it with a fan with no oven, go higher heat. You want to go like 380 to 400. All right. So now we're on pastry cream. So this is still warm. I'm just going to hit it back there for a second. I'm going to hit a splash in here just to get it going. This is my egg, cornstarch, sugar mixture. You gotta make sure your milk does not scald. If it starts sticking to the bottom, it's going to be in a world of hurt. You're going to have little flecks of brown through your pastry cream, and it's not going to look smooth and stuff. All right, so now that I tempered the eggs, I'm going to add it back to my pan. And back to the heat. And this starts to go pretty quick. So I wouldn't walk away at this point. Like,
Stay close.
stay close, yeah.
And what's the heat on for this one here?
Everything's at high heat.
High
pretty
heat.
much, yeah.
I love it. We have another question up front.
When you say you're tempering the eggs, is that to keep them from breaking?
Yeah, from scrambling. Yeah. I add a little bit of the heat, whisk it, get them like kind of come together, and then it just helps it not scramble or separate when I put it back in here.
Once you start scrambling the eggs, it's a different dish.
Yeah. You better start making pancakes.
Oh, fabulous. Another question in the front.
Will the recipe be available?
Oh yeah, I could definitely make it available. I could write it down for you if you like, or if any other process, I could probably send it to you as well.
Email it? Okay.
It's always a good sign when we need the recipe. I did see someone on their phone, very smart, like pulling out the notes.
All right, so right here, it's pretty thick now. Like that was pretty quick. Just gotta make sure it's all together.
So as a former restaurant owner, did you always know that you wanted to own a restaurant and be a chef, or was it a journey?
Yeah, I actually, funny enough, my parents own an architect firm growing up, and I always, don't know why me and my cousins always like, oh yeah, when you guys are out of the way, we're gonna turn it into a restaurant. I'm like, probably the worst restaurant ever, because it's like not in an area you'd want one, but that's what we always said. And somehow I'm the one who ended up doing the restaurant stuff, and it's been great so far. No complaints. I mean, you know, it's kind of like a labor of love. You know, it's not one of those jobs that you'll ever, you know, it's very rare that you'll be like rich or anything like that. But, you know, I really love the process of everything, and I get to actually have fun every day doing things that I love. So at this point, I just have a blank pastry cream. There's no flavoring in it at all. It's just, you know, sugar, eggs, cornstarch. So now that it's cooked, I'm going to fold in 2 tablespoons of butter. And I'm going to fold in 2 tablespoons of coconut cream, not coconut milk. I want just the thick aspect, because I don't want to thin it out at this point. So I'm going to fold that in right there. I'm going to do a little bit of coconut extract just to really get that coconut flavor through. Don't use too much of it, because if you do, it'll taste like suntan lotion. It's very strong.
We're not going for that.
Yeah, not going for that at all. So this little bit of vanilla extract, I just do it to taste. It's not like anything specific. I actually end up using usually more vanilla in recipes than it ever calls for. I like the flavor. And then just rum, and you know, you can use this as much as you want, depending on what you're going for. I'm doing a cap full.
That's conservative.
Yeah, well, I need a set for the drink if I make. At home, this would be a different story.
It's a different cooking show at
Yeah,
that
it's a
point in
different
time.
cooking show. Yeah. All right, so now I'm just whisking it until I get to all the coconut cream to dissolve, all the butter to melt into it, and it just needs to be like creamy and dreamy, pretty much. So right here, it has nice sheen, has good texture. From here, I refrigerate it. I cool it down, and I have to wait till it's all the way cold, and then I'll put it into piping bags. This one particularly, because it has the filling tip on it, and we're gonna fill our cream puffs that I just baked. Normally, though, in this process, I have to do it where I have to take the ones I've already baked prior, because of the process. This would have to dry out for a while, and that. So I already have some I made earlier. So that's what I'm going to show.
So when you say dry out, how long does that take? What does that look like?
I give it a couple hours. So I did something different with these ones that you'll notice. I put this black speck all over it. So this is called crackling. And it is just like equal parts butter, sugar, and a little bit of flour. And you make it roll a little log, and you cut little circles and top each, like of the patachoux I just piped out. You top each one with a little disc, and then when it bakes, it turns into this, where it has like this really cool texture. And I colored it black with food coloring. You can do it. You can color anything. Like if you wanted to do like, you know, red and green Christmas ones, you can also color the patachoux if you'd like. You know, make this like really kind of holiday-esque, or if you wanted to design them and to make them look like something like a pumpkin or anything like that per se. Like you could totally do anything like that. It's pretty versatile dough.
Fit any holiday need that you have.
Yeah, any holiday need that you have. Okay. So I have some pastry cream that I chilled already, that I made. And I am going to get to the piping of these. Now that our pastry cream is made, our cream puffs are ready.
The joy of that TV magic, guys.
Right? I don't know if you guys want to sit here for 3 hours while I make something.
It'd be a really long show.
Yeah.
Rarely is anyone that patient.
Yeah. All right. So find a sharp little pokey stick, anything that you'd like. And I like to go through and I like to poke them just to get a little hole. They get started on these.
So you don't want to poke them through.
Not all the way through. It's just a little hole, just so I can hide it and hide the seam of where I poked it. If I use the tip and just poke right through, I always think it's too big of a hole, and I don't want any pastry cream to come out, or I want it to be completely encased, you know. So I'm just gonna keep poking a lot of these guys.
So tell us, Chef, a little bit. This is cooking for the holidays. What are some of your favorite traditions this time of year?
You know, I like cutting down the tree. That's my my favorite thing. We always go and go out with my mother-in-law and father-in-law. We go pick out a tree, and they pick a really big one, and I pick one that's the smallest frame, so I can do it faster, you know.
Get a little Charlie Brown tree.
Yeah. We could definitely probably go for a bigger one now that we have our own house and stuff, so we'll probably do that. But yeah, it's definitely a great time. You know, you get some warm apple cider and kind of do that whole aspect, you know.
I love that. Always a good time. I never go to chop down trees because I'm like, there's definitely spiders in there.
Yeah, they definitely
So it's not for me.
We actually had to leave it outside for a while. Or drive really fast so they fly off. It's one of the other options.
They'll hang on forever. They'll just go for a ride. Just sitting here poking at pastries.
Yeah, just sitting here poking pastries. I'll just probably do that amount.
So if you were to make an eclair and you wanted to put the cream in there, do you poke a hole in those as well the same way?
I do. I still do it from the bottom because I want a complete seam. But I do, depending on how big the eclairs are, I usually do 3, one in each, like 3 across, just so I can make sure there's pastry cream in every bite.
Love that.
So just flip it upside down, make sure I can get this thing through. All right.
You have to make friends with the pastry cream.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually when the first one you do, it just shoots everywhere. So it's just like, gotta make sure it's coming out at least. All right. All right.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm gonna lay out a bunch of these, and I'm just gonna rock out a bunch of cream puffs.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so look at there's one on the plate. F.
Yeah.
You made that look so easy.
It really is, actually. It's really, I mean, once you get the ability to figure out how to make a pastry cream or a pâte à choux, like I said, you can use it for everything. You can really be like experimental. You could, like I said, you can make savory stuff. You can pretty much do anything. It's like, you know, the world's your oyster on that one.
I love it. I've romanticized it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
you've removed some of the mystique.
Yeah, I know. It's everyone, you know, it seems like it would be a harder thing to process or whatever. I feel like most people don't know, you know, what it takes to make an eclair or anything like that. But yeah, so.
So while you're feeling those, tell us a little bit. We've talked a little bit about how you do catering or events. Is that something that's currently available as a service? How does someone seek you out for such things?
Yeah, I have a website, BlakeLord-Wittig.com. And I know it's a mouthful. I'm sorry. And I offer different style of catering. Like I can either do, you know, buffet, weddings, things like that, past hors d'oeuvres for holiday parties. I've done private dinners at in people's houses. A little bit of everything, you know. It's a fun experience because I can be pretty creative and I can curate menus directly for people in particular, whatever they're looking for.
Oh, we have another question here, Chef.
Yes.
Coming up.
You talk about curating menus depending on what people want. Are there anything
particular weird that people have asked for or interesting or?
Yeah, I actually just booked an event to do dim sum. So I'm doing a whole dim sum breakfast for some people, and because I've had previous experience doing traditional Chinese food, because my grandparents. But yeah, so I do a little bit of everything. It's fun, it's exciting, and like I said, I got to be experimental. Most people are like, what do you feel like making, kind of thing, and that's kind of what I usually tell them.
And we have another question here.
Chef, do you feel it's more stressful owning a restaurant or doing the private catering?
Owning a restaurant is definitely more stressful. I think it's the law of like physics on that or whatever. It's like what will go wrong, what could go wrong will go wrong. It's just how you adapt, honestly, on those. It was a wonderful experience. I've learned so much from that, but at this point in my life, I'd rather not have all those extra stressors with like young kids at home and stuff. So it's much easier to just kind of work for someone else, and they have their own problems that they can take care of. Not all my problems.
You kind of go home and leave it at work.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you say you have young ones. Are they old enough to have shown any interest in cooking?
My 2-year-old, funny enough, is the one that is interested. He always just like hangs out in the kitchen on the counter and just wants to watch me do stuff. And he's like mixing salsas and stuff. And he's but my 8-year-old, no, she's definitely not interested at all. He doesn't even want to even get in the kitchen. She's like, I'm like, hey, you want to help me make dinner? She's like, nah, no. Like, I'll be in my room if you need me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. It's, kids are so different even when they're in the same family sometimes.
Yeah,
it's fun
for
to.
real.
And about how much are you putting into each one of those little guys?
Quite a bit, honestly. They're going to definitely squirt out once you bite into them.
We have another question here.
So since you've used rum and vanilla and coconut, if you were going to have a beverage with this, would you do something rum-based? Or
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, Coquito in general is it's a drink, so I definitely would do rum-based. I definitely would do maybe normally when you make like Caribbean drinks and stuff, there's always like 3 different kinds of rum in them. Like definitely both those like base layers. So I definitely think you need to go big on that one. I've also like rum old fashions are amazing. So like
That's a good way to be.
Yeah, I mean Jackie knows. She's
Love a good old fashioned.
You're right. So yeah, I mean it's not really you can definitely overfill these guys. And I could show you what that looks like.
This is an example of what not to do.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're squirting it, it'll like, oh, shoot. You can keep squirting it, and it'll just literally break apart.
Oh, and that's done.
Yeah, so like it's like over. But yeah, it definitely gets crazy. So.
And it ruins the presentation part there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
See, and now he has to swap gloves, guys.
Yeah, because and the pastry tip becomes a giant mess.
So are there other things that you would recommend if you wanted to zhuzh up the filling? What would you do with that if it were a sweet treat?
So I've done like a take on like pancakes and stuff, like like where I do like instead of adding rum and stuff, I flavor it with maple, and from there, like you could do like almost like a breakfast cereal cracking on top of it.
Oh.
You can do like a lot of cool things. I mean, honestly, whatever you want to flavor, as long as you don't thin out the pastry cream too much, you can add any flavoring. You could add, orange zest, almost like make a creamsicle kind of thing. You could do a bunch of different things. I'm gonna get another pastry bag. 1 sec.
Pay no mind. It's the man behind the curtain. Another question. I love the questions in the audience this weekend.
Chef, what is your favorite savory filling that you put in that?
Oh, if I was gonna do a savory filling, I would do goat cheese, maybe like mixed with cranberries. If you want to do like seasonal like that, you could also, I mean, you could make it like maybe do bacon fat and cream cheese and maybe with some blue cheese inside there as well. You can, maybe you could do like anything. Like you could definitely do like even chorizo. But yeah, it has like a pretty widely different stuff you can do with that.
I love that. You have options. You can customize.
Yeah, definitely. You can. It's definitely a customizable recipe. I don't know if many recipes that are this customizable. Okay, there we are.
So we talked about strange requests when it comes to pop-up events and cooking for folks in their homes. What's maybe your favorite? What's the thing that you get excited about?
Oh, my favorite thing is to be able to make something I haven't made before. Like, if they had like a very specific request, like, and I can like go out of my own wheelhouse, that's like where I get excited about it. And I can start really, doing why I got into this business in the first place, creating and, experimenting and just being like, also I think because it's definitely like an art form in some aspects of building the flavors and stuff. I always try to find new ways to do it. Like recently, one of my like favorite dishes I've ever made, and it happened like a couple weekends ago at an event. This people were fishermen, and they ended up hired me to do this event, and they wanted to use the fish that they caught from Alaska. And they had salmon, they had a bunch of roe that was in the sack still, the cure. So essentially I made a tartare, but I did a beef tartare, and I made a salmon tonnato sauce, which tonnato is an Italian sauce that is essentially tuna, but I olive oil poached salmon, blended it into a sauce with horseradish and all these other different kind of flavors. From there, it made it really, really smooth. And then I put it on top of a crostini, made the steak tartare, tossed with fried capers, pickled red onions, and white shoyu, which is also just kind of like, it's not one cuisine by any means. And then that was what it was tossed in. And then just topped with the salmon eggs that I cured also in white shoyu. It was definitely an out there dish. I'm going to say that, but it had to be one of the best things I've ever made. It was just all based on because they said, hey, we have a bunch of salmon eggs we'd like you to use in some salmon, and then I just got my creative juices flowing, and that was the end of the story on that one.
I love that when it's a little bit of a challenge. Like, this is what we have.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't do things like in traditional method. Like I don't like, oh, this ingredient has to stay because it's shoyu. It has to be used in Asia.